Tonight I am talking about living with anxiety and PTSD, and it's my story, and we're on part 2. So in the first part of this series, I talked about the event that changed my life forever, and I went into great detail because I wanted to share the experience as it happened. As it happened to me, I wanted you to experience that with me to help you understand who I am and why maybe some of the traits and characteristics that I have in my personality are the way they are. Another reason is I want other people to feel normal, because there are so many people that suffer with anxiety and PTSD, and sometimes it's very much downplayed or people are ashamed of it, and I want you to know that you're not alone. So part 1 was telling you my story, and there's more to it though. That was the event, and then there's the aftermath. I'm calling it the aftermath because when you think the event, the traumatic event that you go through is the hardest part, and it's super scary and it's super traumatizing, but the effect that it has on you in the days, weeks, and months that follow are almost more intense and worse than the actual event, because the event ends and the pain and the suffering continues on. So I didn't want to share my story and not go into detail of how life was like after it, what I did, how I'm living today, and how I deal with it. So today we're just going to be talking about what life was like after it happened. How did I respond? How did I react to this situation? So the days following, immediately, Steve had taken off of work and just, made sure that we were okay. We needed to be as a family, we needed to be okay. And then after that, Steve's parents came down. They were the first to come down, and they were here for a few days, I think. And while they were here, we really worked on getting our house to a place where I felt secure in it. So things that we did is we went to Lowe's and we got, I don't remember if they were square or round at this point, but we got dowel rods and we cut them to length to match our windows so that no one could slide up a window from the outside. And we did that in our whole downstairs and 2 of our upstairs ones, because I was like, somebody can climb on my porch and I don't want them to come in my window. It's just too easy, so we put them up there. And then we also got these bars that go from the door handle down at an angle that basically is like if you were to shove a chair under your door. I mean, I'm sure you've either done that or seen that happen before, but basically it doesn't allow someone to break in your door. And I needed that because my door didn't keep me safe, and I needed something to protect me from somebody being able to bust in my door again. So while they were here, they did that, and they brought us a gun that they loaned us for a while because they felt that it would help us feel secure. It would give me some protection in case this person decided to come back. We didn't know what he was going to do. We didn't know why he was there in the first place. And they just kind of helped us get our house ready to go. And I think while they were there, we got a security system. I can't remember the timeline on all of this exactly, but it was either why they were there or my mom, but we did get a security system as well. And they stayed, I want to say roughly a week. I don't really remember, but as soon as they left, my mom was here, and my mom stayed a little bit longer. I want to say my mom probably stayed 2 weeks or so. I could be off on that too, but I bet you it was about 2 weeks. And she just kind of hung out with us and, helped me with Raylan and let me get some sleep and just made sure that I was able to feel okay and, tried to keep my mind off of it a little bit and work through it with me. But the reality set in when everybody left and we were back to just being our little family and living life in this house that didn't hold up for us, that didn't keep us safe and protect us. And that's where it really got hard. You don't really know how you're going to respond to that. And I wanted to be tough because I am a tough person. I don't typically cry. I'm like the one in the family that holds everything together in terms of emotions. Like, everybody's crying and I'm like, okay, we'll just deal with this or whatever. And I wanted to portray that image, and I felt like I could do that. So what I started noticing, though, is that I couldn't be home. I could not stay in my house without someone being there. And I had no one to stay with me, nor could someone stay with me for the rest of my life. So what did I do? Logically, I got up with my husband, who works 6 to 4. and I left my house at 5:30 every morning with my 5-month-old baby. And we drove a separate car, and we would sit in the parking lot of my husband's job, and we would sit there, we would fall back asleep, we would eat breakfast, I don't know, we just sat there, we listened to music, I read. My poor kid sat in her car seat a lot, and we would just hang out kind of until the stores started opening, and then we would drive, and we would go shopping. We would shop all the time. I got into making hair bows at that point because I needed something to do. So I started making hair bows, and I would go to Hobby Lobby, and I would spend all of our money, sorry, my battery's low. I would spend all of our money on buying ribbon to make hair bows. I had to have a hobby. I don't know, that's what I came up with. And then we would just go walk around stores. We wouldn't buy anything. We would just walk around. I would eat fast food every day because I couldn't be home. And then I would head home around 4 o'clock and wait for Steve, to come home after I knew Steve was going to be home, or try to meet him there. Or the other alternative, and that was if I really needed to get home because Raylan just couldn't be out any longer, or I just felt so guilty that I was having this kid sit in a stroller all the time. I would come home, and what I would do is I would hide the gun in boxes of cereal, in the pantry, anywhere that was close to my garage door. I would have this loaded gun, and I would hide it. And I would come home. I would sometimes leave Raylan in my car in the garage. I would come in the garage, shut the garage door. Sometimes I would leave Raylan in the car with the doors open if I was super scared and thought I was going to have to run because somebody was in my house, so that I would just be able to get in my car and leave. Or I'd bring her in her car seat and let her sit in her car seat and lug her around or hide her somewhere like where she couldn't be seen from the front window. And I would take that gun and I would call Steve in the garage, or before I pulled in the garage, I'd be on the phone. I'd walk in, I would take the gun, and I would walk my whole house on the phone with a loaded gun and a baby, usually in a car seat. And I would check every single room, room to room, closet to closet. I went in my attic, and I had to check everywhere. Every single time I came home and no one was home, I had to do this for months. I could not go in my house without believing, even with an alarm system, that someone was not hiding, waiting for me. So this was my life, and Raylan's life, and Steve's life for probably a good month before I think it was my mom said, "Lorae, you need help." And it was the first time that I admitted that I actually could not do this on my own. It was beyond my control. I could not keep living like this, but I couldn't change on my own. It was too hard, and I was so filled with fear, and I was so paranoid that everywhere I went, there was somebody out to get me. So I found a counselor through Steve's job. I called, and I got them to help me find a counselor. And this lady was wonderful. She let me bring my daughter, she was a baby. We didn't have any family or friends to watch her, so she had to come with me. And I went to counseling, and I'm going to get into that tomorrow. I want to talk a little bit more about how counseling helped me. But this pattern of just not being home and being so scared to be home lasted, oh my goodness, I can't even tell you, maybe a year. I know my neighbors next door that lived right across the street that became our second family. I want to say it was probably in the summer after it happened, maybe July, maybe even, I don't know, maybe a little later. We started getting to know them better, and they started offering to babysit for free while I went to counseling, so I could go by myself. And then they kind of became my backbone. With counseling and them, I was able to start making changes. And I want to talk about that, but I'm going to do it separately because I feel like giving anybody out there that needs help, some of the things I learned in counseling that I can share with you might be of use to you. And I want to do that separate from this video because I want you to understand that when you suffer from a traumatic event and you have PTSD, I don't care what that event was. I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure I have PTSD from going to the dentist one time. So whatever your event is, whatever your traumatic experience was, your PTSD is real, and it is not less than someone else's who may seem to have something worse, because that's what was going on in my head. I was convinced that I was weak, that I shouldn't feel this way because I wasn't a veteran or I hadn't been sexually abused and no one hurt me physically, that I felt like what I was feeling inside, that fear and that anxiety and those memories that would come up and feel so real to me, I couldn't justify it because it wasn't that bad. I didn't get hurt. I was fine. But I want you to know that if you are struggling, your feelings are real, and they are real to you, and they are the worst that you've probably ever felt in your life. And your feelings are justified. The way you are suffering is justified. And don't ever let anyone tell you differently. Don't ever let someone say that, oh, that's not a big deal. You know, I know a lot of moms that struggle with PTSD from giving birth, from having a traumatic birth. And guess what? Somebody might be sitting there saying, that's ridiculous. Like, you can't have PTSD from birth. And I'm telling you, you can. And it's fine. And it's justified. So don't ever feel less than because somebody makes you feel like it's not worthy to feel the feelings you're feeling. I did that to myself. No one around me made me feel that way. But I was trying to be that strong person. And in my mind, I was like, I shouldn't feel this way. I should be able to do this on my own. And I realized I couldn't. I couldn't get over this. I don't know how to explain to you guys what the feeling of having somebody break into your home feels like, but it's very violating. It's taking away safety and security and privacy. I know when my mom was there, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, sorry, but I know when my mom was there, we actually borrowed like a carpet floor cleaner thing from our neighbors because I just couldn't stand the thought of these dirty people that were just so bad being in my house and their shoe prints being on my carpet. Oh, I'm frozen? That's not good. I'm sorry if this froze. But anyway, I had to clean every inch of my house. I had to clean the floors. I had to just do all of this deep cleaning because I just felt so violated. So if you've ever experienced something traumatic where you felt violated, it kind of, I assume, feels that same way where you just, how could somebody do that to you and nothing felt clean anymore and nothing felt pure or like it was ours. Somebody had invaded that and somebody took that feeling away from me. And in those first few weeks, wrapping my head around that just was absolutely impossible. And I just want you guys to know that that's how it felt. And right or wrong, there is no right or wrong. Maybe you would feel completely differently, but that was my experience. And, you know, Steve's experience was a little different. And I would love for him to tell you guys about it, but I don't know that I can convince him to do that. But, you know, his was very different because he was on the other side of that thinking that his wife and kid were going to be killed or taken or hurt. And, you know, that's a whole different experience. And I know that he understood how I felt, but he couldn't feel it. No one could. No one around me understood because no one had been through that. And it was very isolating. With all the support I had, it was very isolating, and I felt bad. I felt bad about myself. I felt bad about how I was reacting to it. And, you know, that was, I think, when my mom says you really need help. And she also watched me go from a 3-month, well, no, I guess it was like 5 months at that point, postpartum mom. So, you know, I hadn't lost the baby weight. I was still fluffy and had the fluffy face. And she watched me in a month's time lose an absurd amount of weight. And then by the time it was a year later, I didn't even look like myself. And on my blog today, I'm going to post a picture that was taken in January on my birthday and one at the end of March. And you will see the significant difference that stress and anxiety can do to a person's body even when they're not trying. Because let me just tell you, I was eating McDonald's, I was eating anything and everything that was bad for you, candy bars, Mountain Dew, everything. And it just, instead of making me gain weight, I was metabolizing it so fast because I was always in a hypersensitive state, no matter where I went. And it was really sad to see, and it's really sad to look back on. So, the people that were supporting me, I'm so thankful for that, and I'm thankful that I got brave enough to contact a counselor. But, that's kind of what happened the days afterwards, the few weeks, months. We'll get into a little more of that tomorrow, of further down the road once I started counseling. But it was hard. It was almost harder than the event because it just never ended. And I was perpetually scared of everything. I was scared to breathe. It hurt to move. It hurt to hear a noise because my whole body was tense all the time. And it wasn't very fun. And it's really, really hard. So again, if you guys are going through this, just know you are not alone. Your feelings are justified, and you are worthy of having the feelings that you're having. But I am going to keep this shorter, and I'm going to get off of here. And if you want to hear what happened in counseling and how I started applying the things I was learning to my life and how that has played out, come back tomorrow for part 3, and I will be sharing that journey with you. And I hope you guys have a fantastic night. I will talk to you later. Thank you again for all of your support and love.